Now our next topic is climate change. Next topic is climate change. Now, what is climate change? You might be knowing very well till now that because of the greenhouse gases, there is increase in the temperature of the earth, and there is restricting of the outgoing heat which used to go earlier, and now it is trapped in greenhouse gases, and it is leading to the increase in temperature of earth. So what is global warming? We will see that in detail. What is greenhouse effect? In previous class, in previous slide, I have shown you that sun rays are coming inside earth through a window, but when they come inside they do not get bypassed through the same window because its wavelength has increased. So it is a kind of greenhouse effect. Then what are the greenhouse gases that do this? There are water vapors, there is CO2, there is methane. Okay, there are various refrigerant coolants that act as a greenhouse gases. Then what is climate forcing? Okay, then what are the forces which are responsible for the change in climate? Next is global warming potential. That what these things, water vapor, CO2 and methane, what is the potential in the global warming? We'll be seeing them in detail. Then what are receding glaciers? A symptom of global climate change. Now, why the glaciers are receding? You might have heard about black carbon. What is black carbon? Would anyone like to specify? What is black carbon? How the glaciers are receding? Okay. Basically, if I have a glacier here, okay, we burn certain kind of materials like wood, plastic, and other things. This or there are various industries. They lead to formation of smoke. Now, in this smoke, there are various particles also. This smoke, it goes towards the glacier, and from this gases, black carbon, the black carbon is deposited. Okay, the black carbon is deposited. Now, if we'll see the albedo of a glacier, then it is very high. The amount of solar radiation that came here, or it impacted the glacier surface, almost, because it is white, almost all of the incoming radiation is reflected back. Okay, this is called as high albedo. Okay, now this is because of this high albedo, the maximum insolation is reflected back. But because of the presence of this black carbon, they absorb heat. They absorb heat. And this leads to increase in temperature of these ice molecules, and it leads to their melting. This melting causes receding glaciers. Okay, so got this point, that receding glaciers a symptom of global climate change. So because of various factors, the glaciers are receding. The one of the factors is pollution of environment, and the rise in temperature. Now next is loss of ice cover in Arctic Sea. Because of the rise in temperature in the ocean also and the rise in temperature in air, the ice cover which is situated in Arctic region, it is also receding very fast. Due to this receding ice, due to this melting of glaciers, which have been done through the Pleistocene ice age, okay, so it is leading to rise in the, where it will go? It will go to the sea. It will go into the sea. This water which is coming out of glaciers, and it will lead to the rise in the sea level. It will lead to the rise in the sea level. So it is a consequence. Sea level rise is the consequence of the melting of ice glaciers or ice sheets from Arctic Sea or Arctic region or the Antarctic region. Okay. Now, what are the, we'll see the next topic, that aerosol radiative forces. What are these aerosol radiative forces? What are its consequences? We'll be seeing them in the further lectures. Then assessment of climate change over the Indian region. There is assessment has been made that how the Indian climate is changing, how the things are moving further. Like there are increased consequences of droughts, floods, then there is pollution level increasing in river, groundwater table is been decreasing, and the pollution in groundwater table is increasing, and other factors like increasing of barren land, desertification is increasing. So it has been given in a report. So this assessment we will be seeing in further lectures. Now next is ocean acidification. Ocean acidification we have seen in a previous slide, that how the ocean is acidified. Basically this we can understand through a question. Now there is one point, that Sustainable Ocean Economy 2050 report. There an effort has been made by different countries or coalitions for the reduction in acidification or further acidification of ocean. So we'll be seeing this in further lectures. Now we have a question here on ocean acidification. Now the impact of ocean acidification and how it is done, we will see through this question. Now the question specifies here, or it asks, the acidification of ocean is increasing. Why is the phenomena a cause of concern? Okay, why it is concern? The growth and survival of calcareous phytoplankton will be adversely affected. First statement. Then second statement is growth and survival of coral reefs will be adversely affected. Then the third statement is the survival of some animals that have phytoplankton larvae will be adversely affected. Okay. Then fourth statement is the cloud seeding and formation of clouds will be adversely affected. Now I will like to explain this with a diagram. Basically what is here happening? I have an ocean. I have an ocean here. I have a land here. I have coral reefs here on the continental margin. Okay. Now, basically what happens in ocean acidification, because in the atmosphere CO2 is increasing. CO2 is increasing, and because of pollutants, if this is a river, this is having pollutants. Now this pollutants and this CO2, it is getting mixed with the ocean. This mixing of ocean, it is leading to formation of, it is leading to formation of acidic acidic water. Now, how this acidic water is being formed? When this CO2 is mixed and the pollutants are mixed, there are reactions are going in the inside the ocean. It leads to formation of H plus ions. This H plus ions basically it increases the acidity of the ocean. Basically, the on pH scale, on pH scale, the basicity of ocean is 8. This is the ocean is not acidic, but it is basic. Okay, it is basic. But because of the increased pollutants and CO2 inside the ocean, this pH has reduced from 8 to 7.9 after the Industrial Revolution. So this 7.9 factor comparatively to 8, it is termed as ocean acidification. Now, if the basic level is decreasing inside the ocean, then the marine organisms which are living here, okay, and the coral reefs, they will get affected because of the increasing acidity. There will be more absorption of sunlight. It will lead to increase in temperature of ocean. It will lead to increase in temperature of ocean. If the temperature increases, the ocean will start expanding. Expanding. Now, this all consequences, it leads to damaging of the ecology system of the ocean or the marine system, because the animals or fishes, they are used to live in a particular habitat and environment, and the temperature, acidity or basicity, those are very important factors for those living organisms. So if I'll see this, then calcareous phytoplankton, it will start getting dissolved. This calcareous phytoplankton will start getting dissolved due to acidity, first thing. Then the growth and survival of coral reefs will be adversely affected. If you have read about coral reefs, then coral reefs are very specific. They are found in very specific locations. They are also not found in too much acidic or too much basic, neither it is found in too much cold or too much warm water. So those will be affected. The coral reefs will be affected here. The survival of some animals that have phytoplanktonic larvae will be adversely affected. Now, if we will see this diagram again, then here there are various phytoplankton available. Due to this sunlight, due to this sunlight, this phytoplankton, they absorb sunlight and they produce or they reproduce themselves. And these are food. These are food for the various fishes. Okay, these are food for various fishes. But if the acidity increases, then this phytoplankton larva animals, they will get destroyed or they will get affected, due to which the whole ecosystem of the marine will get affected. So it is clear here that how this phytoplanktonic larva animals will be decreased because of increasing acidity of ocean. Now fourth point is the cloud seeding and formation of clouds will be adversely affected. Now basically what is cloud seeding? We have seen here that the ocean is getting acidified. It is having various pollutants. It is having carbon dioxides and pollutants. Now what happens? if I have a if I have evaporation, if I have evaporation of this water, there will be formation of clouds because of evaporation. Okay, so these clouds will also have effects of this pollutants and this carbon dioxide. This will also be included here. So this will lead to their decrease, or this will lead to alter in the formation process of the clouds, and these will be seeded. There will be particles of pollutants, there will be particles of pollutants and acidic and acid. So this clouds, it will lead to acid rain. This cloud, it will lead to acid rain. So this is basically the fourth point. The cloud seeding and formation of clouds will be adversely affected. So here we can say that the 1, 2, 3, 4, all the options are correct answer. What is ozone depletion? Basically here we have a very important topic of ozone depletion. That what is ozone? Ozone is basically O3. Okay? Ozone is basically O3. It is found at the surface of the earth also and at stratosphere also. Okay, so ozone plays good effects at stratosphere, but it plays very harmful effect at the surface layer. We'll be seeing this thing further. And yes, how ozone is depleted, what are the effects? Ozone basically prevents UV radiations from entering into the earth atmosphere. Earth's atmosphere. Okay, so this is the basic role of O3 or ozone. So what happens that due to some of the pollutants like refrigerants, compounds or CFCs, HFCs, because of their release into the atmosphere, they react with the ozone layer, and these ozone molecules are then converted into oxygen and oxygen O minus molecule. So this led to the depletion of ozone layer. So we will be saying what are the effects, what are the bad effects of depletion of ozone, how we can decrease the rate of depletion of ozone layer. We'll be studying all these topics in ozone depletion. Next here we have impact of climate change in India. Now, since the start of this lecture, we are seeing various things that are included or related to our environment. So environment is basically the abiotic and biotic components, then again population, then different kind of organisms, animals, plants, their species, what are their interaction with each other. Then again, the human evolution has gone through, and the humans have made an agriculture as the major part of their life. So, due to the climate change, there are various effects, bad effects, which are causing harm to different sectors of human beings. So, what are basically these environmental harmful sectors that are degraded because of climate change? So, here first thing comes is agriculture. So, agriculture is very important, not only for rural India, but also as it is of national importance. We need to have a very good strategy to have our food security. So this is agriculture is directly linked with food security. If there is depletion in the reserves of food, then there can be a rise of a situation where a lot of people will die of hunger Not only this, there will be competition between the citizens or public to acquire this resource, that is food, that comes from agriculture. So that's why what are the major issues with agriculture? How we can have good environmental agricultural practices, how we can achieve this, that is through crop diversification, through organic farming, etc. So this will be covering in agriculture and food security. Similarly, the other area is water. Due to depletion of water reserves or depletion of groundwater resource or the increasing pollution of river water, there is a situation created which is called as water stress. So what this water stress do? If as a human being, you are consuming some liters of water every day, but due to depletion of water reserves or pollution of water, so this water needs to be filtered to a filtration plant, and then it is distributed in that city or in that area. So if there is decrease in the supply of this water, then it will create the competition situation again, and it will lead to creation of water stress situation. We'll be studying this further, and this thing will lead to water insecurity. The water insecurity aspect, this basically, if you have seen, you might have seen some magazines or you might have read a story of the semi-arid regions. There, the rural people or the urban people in India also, in today's scenario, they have a very great line for just getting water from the tankers. So this is the result of water insecurity. Next, we have sea level rise. In one diagram earlier, we have seen that because of the receding of glaciers, there is melting of glaciers. This melted glacier water, it goes into the sea. And because of this situation, there is rise in sea level. So this sea level rise creates a lot of impact on the environment. For example, it increases the sea level and the land area which is connected to it, it starts to decreasing. See, this land, it has gone below the water. We can see that we already have shortage of land because of such large amount of population. So because of this submergence of land, there will be less land available to people. And in the due course of time, when this glaciers will melt more, it will rise the sea level more. It will lead to submergence of land. This situation not only happens in India, but it is a worldwide situation. It is a worldwide situation. So we need to have some strategies. If I'll take it take it as an example in Indian perspective, then the coastal regions of Maharashtra, coastal regions of Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and Lakshadweep region, those islands, these the areas of these regions are getting less because of the sea level rise. So these are the implications of sea level rise in India. The impact of climate change on ecosystem and biodiversity. We have seen these examples that how the ecosystem changes, how there is stress of resources for animals, humans, plants, trees, etc. So because of that, the ecosystem is affected. There is, if pollution level is increasing, then the ecosystem is getting affected. If some kind of species or invasive species is getting increased, because of that, the ecosystem is again affected. it directly affects the biodiversity. For example, in India, if I'll take example of some plants, for example, trees like moist deciduous trees or dry deciduous trees, if these trees are cut for making furnitures, so their significance or their cost to the environment, it increases. It actually degrades the environment. So these are the issues which are related to ecosystem. Now, if we take the example of rat senders, they are of highly importance because of their medicinal nature or other uses, but they are being illegally traded, illegally cutted and traded. They are basically found in the southern region of Western Ghats. So, because of that illegal trading, they are costing something to the environment, and this cost is leading to the decrease of the environmental output. So we need to have some strategies to conserve those species or those biodiversity. Next we have climate change and health. If we will take some example of recent studies, then we have seen that there is a concept of urban heat island. In urban heat island, what happens? This is an urban area. For example, I will take this as Delhi only. If it is the city of Delhi, what is happening here? There is concretization of buildings. We have lots of buildings here. We have less number of trees. Okay, trees are less, trees are cut so that the buildings are being created. Now what happens? The same sun rays, they are coming inside this concrete, concretized city. Okay. Now what will happen? The temperature, the buildings, they will absorb maximum sunlight. And because of this, when the sunlight is less, the heat which is absorbed by these buildings, it will get released into the atmosphere again. Okay? So these buildings will reflect back, or they will release the heat that were absorbed by them. So because of this situation, the amount of time through which the atmosphere was warm around this city, it increases. And due to this, there are various health issues being faced by the people living in this region. For example, heat strokes, or there are various wind system that are prevailing over these regions. There is a change in pressure system. So it leads to one or the other health issues to the people. So this was one example. Another examples are like the increase in pollution in water, increase in pollution in air, increase in pollution in food. It leads to biomagnification of the pollutants. So these are the other health issues related with the climate change. Now next we'll be saying the mitigation strategies. Basically, climate change is happening because of the rise in temperature in the atmosphere of the Earth. First thing. Now, second thing is what I can do or what we can do to decrease this rate of rising temperature of the Earth. So, basically, we have some greenhouse gases. So, if we decrease those greenhouse gases, which are being produced at the current levels, then those the effect of those pollutants or those greenhouse gases will automatically decrease. So basically, if I'll take carbon as an example, or carbon dioxide, so this carbon dioxide which is released into the atmosphere, it is creating a large amount of greenhouse thing, or greenhouse situation. So here, if I want to decrease the effect of greenhouse gases, then first thing I can do is I can capture this CO2, this carbon dioxide, which is released into the atmosphere, and I will store it somewhere. Okay. For example, how we can do this? I have a thermal power plant. From that thermal power plant, the various gases are being released. If I capture the gases from at this point only, from where it is released, and I store it somewhere, then this thing will be called as, or this process will be called as carbon sequestration. Okay? Now, this carbon sequestration can be natural or it can be man-made. If the humans are doing this, then it is man-made. But can't you see that if, or think that if the trees are there, they intake carbon dioxide and they release oxygen into the atmosphere. Basically, they are decreasing the level of carbon dioxide and they are increasing the level of oxygen in the atmosphere. So naturally, they are working as a carbon sequesters. So this is carbon sequestration. Second is carbon sink. Now, where this carbon can be stored, where I can sink this carbon. So the place where I can store them, those are carbon sink. I can store it in trees naturally, or I can store it in the geological structures which are just used, or oil fields have been removed from those structures. So I can store this carbon in those sinks. So those will be the carbon sinks. Next is carbon credit. Carbon credit is basically the amount of carbon dioxide which is released by one entity. If I take a certificate of that yes, I am releasing this amount of carbon. But what I will do, that I will produce something or same amount of output with the renewable sources or renewable energy. And I will equate the amount of production which was happening due to the release of carbon dioxide and due to the non-release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So if I will equate them, then I can trade them, those two things in between each other. So this is carbon credit. It is basically the amount of energy or output being produced without the release of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And I will issue a certificate on that behalf, and I can trade that certificate. That will be carbon credit. Similarly, what can be carbon offsetting? What can be carbon offsetting? Can Would anyone like to elaborate? What is carbon offsetting? What is offset basically? Offset, this term. What is offset? Offset means, if I have something, you might have heard budget offsetting. Budget offset, okay? Can we relate those terms here? Yes, we can relate it. How we can relate it? If I am creating something here, okay? If this thing is CO2, I have created some amount of CO2 at one country, but there is another country which is giving same output, which is giving same output without producing CO2. So I am producing something, it is releasing CO2 in the environment. But there is another country which is not releasing CO2. It is green. It is produced through green practices. So basically, I can ask this entity, will ask this entity that yes, instead of producing this amount of CO2 here or releasing this amount of CO2 here, you release this amount and I'll pay you something. Okay? So this offsetting from one country to another country, or the release of carbon dioxide is being shifted from one country to another country. This is called as carbon offsetting. Okay? This is basic concept. We will see this thing in detail in further. Now, third thing is carbon tax. what is carbon tax, or what can be the analogy with the carbon tax? Would anyone like to say in this thing? What is carbon tax? See, why I'm putting carbon tax? I can relate it with the luxurious tax. If there is something which is luxurious or considered a luxurious item, if I put more tax on that thing, then it will be less consumed. For example, if the price of gold is rising, if I put a tax on import of gold, then the demand of gold will decrease. Similarly, if I'll put tax on carbon or the amount of emission of CO2, then it will decrease the demand of the fossil fuels or the fuels which are carbon based, and it will create rise in the demand of fuels which are non carbon based, or basically which are green. So this is a very simple term, that if I'll put carbon tax, then it will lead to decrease of the fossil fuels and increase in the demand of renewable fuels. So this is carbon tax. Next is geoengineering. What is geoengineering? If in simple terms, what are the basically the situations we are facing right now today? If we want to tackle it through some kind of engineering or engineering method, then it will be called as geoengineering. Now, this engineering is applied at a global scale. This geo, okay? Geo means it is applied at higher geographical level. So, what can be this kind of situations? If I, if for example, I'll take one example on this one. If we want to decrease the temperature of Earth, if I want to decrease the temperature of Earth and decrease global warming, what alternate options I have? So one of the options is I will increase the aerosols in the atmosphere. These aerosols, they will restrict the sunlight incoming into towards the earth, and because of that, the temperature of earth will decrease in due time. Now second thing is, if there will be a natural phenomena or alternative to that, if a volcanic eruption takes place and there is large amount of gases in the atmosphere, this atmosphere will restrict the incoming solar radiation, and due to which there will be decrease in temperature of the earth. This phenomena has taken place in the past, which has given rise to the Pleistocene age. So we can get those examples like Pleistocene age, and we can implement those things in today's scenario and get the same results with the global warming. So that is geoengineering. Now project green AG or green gold project. This will be seen in further lectures. Now decarbonizing transport. What can be decarbonizing transport? It is basically I am replacing one vehicle which is releasing CO2 and gases into the atmosphere, and I'll replace it with another vehicle which does not do it. Now, what can be those vehicles which does not release the CO2 into the atmosphere or the other gases? Those can be electric vehicles, those can be rapid mass transit system, those can be metros, those can be electric buses. So replacing the releasing of gases vehicles with the non-releasing gases vehicles. This is basically decarbonizing transport. We will be seeing all this in further lectures. Now basically it is the same thing that we have seen in the earlier slide, that what is the India's position on climate change. Okay, so India has released some amount of CO2. What is its rank? India ranks 7th in the release of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So, but if we will take it as per capita release of carbon dioxide, then it is very low compared to the other countries. So, this is India's position. Then, what are the actions and adaptation mitigation strategies? Those will be discussed in detail. What are the national action plan on climate change? So what the government is planning on national scale. For example, there are assessment of the release of different kind of gases. For example, if we'll take methane, methane is being released from almost all the activities. That is agriculture, livestock farming. After that, there are industries, there are wetlands also. So this release of methane is at very large scale. So how this can be mitigated? So there are formulation of strategies for the mitigation of methane. Similarly, there is a strategy for release of nitrogenous gases because these nitrogenous gases are increasing the productivity of certain kind of water or lake ecosystems. So this need to be restricted at some level. So national action plan on climate change. Similarly, those are being assessed for other greenhouse gases. Now, Indian network on climate change assessment. As I have said earlier, that there is assessment of various kind of gases. There are assessments of particulate matter particles, that is PM 2.5, PM 10, etc. So there will be assessment. There will be national communication. There will be communication between the different cities or different regions. Those are producing these pollutants and those are less producing these pollutants. But some cities which are producing or non-producing, those are affected because of the regions which are besides them or nearby. But they are getting affected because of those regions. So to mitigate those effects, for example, the stubble burning in and around Delhi, it creates lot of smog during the winter season. Now this is a hazardous condition. Now how to mitigate this kind of conditions? So there is a plan or action plan being formulated on that thing. Also there is communication that yes, this amount of pollutant or gases have been released. So you have to make this kind of situation. So there will be cause and effect relation between these two. So communication. Now there are various policy structures for greenhouse gas emission. There are green buildings. So what is basically green building? Green building, anyone like to have that I'll make a building of tree or plant, okay? Complete building like that? No, it's not the concept. Concept is basically I'm living in an environment. Okay. If I'll just go down, there will be a park. In that park, what things I can see? I can see the air is purified. There are plants, trees, grasses. Okay. There is water flowing somewhere between the park, and there are birds, there are animals. Those are living inside that park. So basically, if I take that environment and I incorporate it into the building or my place, then it will be called as green building. The inclusion of those grasses, plants, trees, water, air in the current situation or in the current building or making a code to develop the buildings on this principle, it is called as green building. And India, this principle is called as Graha or Griha scheme. Okay, clear on this part? Now, next is National Initiative on Climate Resilient Agriculture. Climate Resilient Agriculture. What can be climate resilient agriculture? Climate is affecting the agriculture on various parts. For example, due to water, there is water stress. Because of water stress, there is increase in groundwater extraction. Increase of groundwater extraction is leading to pollution, increase in salinity of groundwater. Now it is becoming unfit for human consumption. Also, it is being depleting at a faster rate. So one kind of situation is leading to rise of other situations also. So if I want to tackle this kind of situation, what can be my strategies? What can be my output, that how I control this kind of situation? Now, first thing is on water stress. Another is crop diversity. Recently, we have seen that there is decrease in the diverse crops that have been grown in the various parts of India. Those crops, they were of basically traditional knowledge concepts. So the tribal or the village people used to grow that plants there or crops there with their traditional knowledge. But because of green revolution and current demand of the food, this knowledge is getting dissipated, and there is increase in the rise of monodiverse crops. So it is one of the part of climate resilient agriculture. We need diverse crops. If when one crop is getting extinguished because of the pest or insects, then we will be lacking diversity or other kind of plants or crops which will be able to grow in that situation. So we need to have this gene pooling, which is associated with climate resilient agriculture. Now, similarly, there are various programs such as BIC GreenX. Okay, if I want to trade the carbon, or I want to trade something which is related to environment, which is related to the beneficial benefit of environment. So this thing, this trading or the amount or funding I can get, and I will trade this amount in the BSc. So it will lead to the awareness of people that yes, we need to get eco-friendly. We need to get some environmental benefit actions or programs for environmental aggradation. Okay, so that is the concept of BSc GreenX. Now next is FAME India program or electric vehicles. Electric vehicles. Anyone have seen one of the electric vehicle? An electrical vehicle? Okay. Recently, Delhi government has purchased a lot of buses which are electric based. They are non-fuel based. Okay. So what is the concept here? It is basically converting a pollution releasing transport system into non-pollution, non-pollution, non-polluting transport structure. Okay. So what basically electrical vehicles do? They have a system of charging. They require batteries. Now these batteries are based on lithium, cobalt, cadmium, copper. So this category of minerals, they are classified as rare earth elements. Rare earth elements. Okay. So India is trying very hard to develop this rare earth element technologies so that it can convert this fuel based economy to green based economy or electric vehicle based economy. Okay, we'll be seeing this in more detail further. Now, others issues are such as National Adaptation Fund. What are the funds that are being created by the different organizations, how India is part of it, how much fund India is getting for the mitigation strategies or for the development of technologies to tackle the pollution or to tackle the climate change scenario. So this we will be seeing in detail. There are other points or also as other critical entities and climate smart cities. Okay, we'll see this one. Climate smart cities. Now, the climate change organizations. what are the different climate change organizations that are important for UPSC? Because almost on all this, excluding one or two points, the questions have been asked in one year or the one or the other year. So on UNFCCC, there are a lot of questions in 2014-15. On Kyoto Protocol, there are various questions. Conference of Parties, there are questions. What are the agreements? What are the conventions? What amount have been sanctions? What funds are being sanctioned? Who is backing those funds? So these are being asked in the such type of these are related with such kind of organizations. REDD plus, okay? Global environment facilities. Okay, what are global environment facilities? How they are providing different kind of funds? What are their research methods? What are their research? So based on this amount, this research, the questions will be asked in prelims. Climate smart agriculture. Was a question in 2021 on climate smart agriculture. There was a previous year question on climate smart agriculture. How the question pattern or question twist have been made. We'll be seeing this in next slides. Intergovernmental panel on climate change. It has given a very important report, 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is connected to almost all the dimensions of the earth or environment. So if the earth is rising on beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius, so what will be its consequences? Currently, the earth has risen, the temperature has risen around 0.7 degrees Celsius before the pre-industrial era. So what are the consequences? What is green economy? What is climate finance architecture? So these will be the aspects which are related with current affairs or any situation or any convention that has been made or there is any conference of party which has occurred. So there can be a direct question on that part. We will see this through a question. Okay, so this is a 2021 question. The question is, the common carbon metric supported by the UNEP has been developed for, okay, common carbon metric. So if this was a current affair question, this was a current affair question. Now what is it is asking that assessing the carbon footprint of building operations around the world. Okay, first statement is assessing the carbon footprint of building operations. Second statement, it is asking enable commercial farming entities around the world to enter carbon emissions trading. Okay. Second is basically, if I'll take the key term, then it is carbon emissions trading. If the third point I will see, it is assess the overall carbon footprint caused by their countries or enabling governments to assess the overall carbon footprint. Okay. Now, fourth situation is or statement is assessing the overall carbon footprint caused by use of fossil fuels by the world in the unit time. Okay. Now, if I will compare or if I will see, if I want to solve this question, then if I have not read about this question, this common carbon metric, then it will be difficult for me to judge between the options because almost all the options seem similar. Okay. But if I want to eliminate one or two options, then can I do it? Yes. If I'll try, I can do that. If I'll see enabling commercial farming entities around the world to enter carbon emissions trading. Basically, carbon emissions trading is done by UNEP, but there is some other party or there is some other agreement through which the carbon emission trading is being done. Okay, so I can eliminate this option. Now, third is enabling governments to assess the overall carbon footprint caused by their countries. So for this arrangement, there was already one agreement to have a assessment of carbon footprint that is being produced by that particular country. So I can eliminate this option also. Okay. Now next is assessing the overall carbon footprint caused by the use of fossil fuels by the world in unit time. So by the world in a unit time, if I will see this closely, then it is like the footprint caused by fossil fuels. In fossil fuels, I can assess them, but the common carbon metric, it is not seems to be connected to the fossil fuel thing, and that to the particular country and around the world. If you have seen some sites of UNEP, then there is already the data that how much CO2 is being produced by which country. So it is not like that they will do that thing again. For this thing, we regularly need to see the sites of UNEP, UNFCCC, UNDP, UNCCD, UNCCC. So in these websites, they bring something new, even on 1 year basis, or one if a conference of party happened or some conferences have occurred. So they give some information on their websites. So on the website of UNEP, you will see that there is this thing done already, that carbon footprint are already being published on unit time basis. So this will be my wrong option. Now the correct option here will be assessing the carbon footprint of building operations around the world. Okay, so this will be my correct option. Moving further, we will be going to agriculture. Now, agriculture and its aspects. Environment has its aspect. Excuse me. Environment has its aspect. So one of the aspect of environment is agriculture. That human beings are doing agriculture for their food security or for their survival. Okay, this is one thing. Now there are various issues that are being created because of the agriculture, because of this agriculture industry. Now what are these issues? We can see them in detail. That what are the mitigation strategies, what are the different techniques that are being incorporated. There are different roles of agriculture, so we'll be seeing them in detail. So first thing will be, what is agriculture? So agriculture is basically the plantation or the converting of some land into a crop producing land. Okay, so this is basically crop producing land. After that, there are various types of crops and its classification. There can be uh, grains, there can be cereal crops, there can be fruit crops, there can be plantation crops, there can be consumption and non-consumption crops like rubber, etc. So there will be its classification. Then what are the different aspects of agriculture, that how agriculture can be improved? Then there is tillage. That what is tillage? If I just take this land and I'll till it and I'll put the seeds. So, okay, this will be the tillage system. Now there are different cropping pattern and cropping systems. What are the different cropping patterns and cropping systems? There is monocropping pattern, there is multi-cropping pattern, there is hybrid cropping pattern, that plants and trees are being grown together, or agriculture or livestock farming is being done together, or agriculture or forestry is being done together. So there will be different cropping system, and including it there will be farming system, that I have given example like the farming of agriculture and livestock we are being done together, or the growing of rice and fisheries production is being done together. It is including here the agriculture and aquaculture. So there will be different farming systems. Now, what are sustainable agriculture practices like organic farming? Like there will be less insecticides, less pesticides used for the growth of that crop. So that will be sustainable agriculture. Next will be organic farming. It is the one of the subset of sustainable agriculture. They're like, what is organic farming? What is its implications on the environment? How it is being produced? How the organic farming is done? How the organic manure is being produced? There are organic insecticides. There are organic pesticides. How these are beneficial to the environment. So this will be studying in detail. Now next is integrated farming systems. Now integrated farming systems, as we have seen earlier, that there will be different patterns. So I integrate different types of farming systems into one system. So this will be called as integrated farming system. Like there will be production of rice, there will be production of crops, but how I am producing it, I am just using a vertical farming. If you can see that, it is not specified here. There is vertical farming method. In this vertical farming method, I can produce an agricultural produce like crop or grain. I can grow the green vegetables. I can grow uh, fruits or do horticulture there. So this will lead to a different kind of integrated farming system. So one of them is vertical farming method. Then after that there is soil science. What is soil? Soil science. Basically, if I want to grow something, so I need soil because soil provides a particular environment for the root of the plant to have a nourishing environment. Now this nourishing environment, it is available in the soil. But what are the components that should be present at that time so that it can nourish that the roots of the plant? So we need to see them, that what are the nourishing environment of the plants. So we'll be covering it here. Then there is zero budget natural farming. Zero budget natural farming has been in news recently. Would anyone like to elaborate on zero budget natural farming? Zero budget natural farming. Okay. Okay. If I'll take an example, okay, in that example, I'll do one thing. I will not buy anything from the outside. If I have farms, then I will make an arrangement in which I am producing the trees, seeds. I have seeds. Okay, first thing, I will produce organic manure with the help of the available resources. Second thing, I will have herbal pesticides or herbal insecticides. Those are being produced with the available resources. Okay, I will not buy hybrid seeds or the genetically modified seeds or the whatever the things are there. So I will focus on something which is available to me in that region particularly. But what I will do, I will use these resources very efficiently. So using these resources efficiently for the production of crops in agriculture, it is called as zero budget natural farming. So all the inputs that I am giving here, those will be natural. If I want to take out some output from these resources or from this region, that will be natural. So this will be producing, or the production of this kind of system will give us complete organic system. Okay, so this is the benefit of zero budget natural farming. It is being implemented in various states like Andhra Pradesh or other few states like Orissa has also presented this the model on zero budget national farming. Okay, then there is aquaponics. What is aquaponics? Aqua means water. Okay, ponics means growing something inside the water. So there are various plants or trees that can be grown inside the water. So we will be studying what plants can be there, what system can be there, what are the plants which can be grown in soil only, what are the plants or the categories which can be grown in water only, or what are the plants which can be grown in water and soil. So we'll be studying this kind of system in further lectures. Now I have a question here of 2021 and 2018. So next question we have here of 2018 first will be saying that with reference to Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture, GASCA, GACSA, which of the following statements is or are correct? Okay, so the first statement is GASCA is an outcome of climate summit held in Paris in 2015. First statement. Second statement, membership of GASCA or GACSA does not create any binding obligations. Okay. So third statement will be India was instrumental in creation of the GACSA. India was instrumental in creation of the GACSA. So here we will be analyzing the situation as first thing that this was a current affair question, but this thing occurred in 2014. This thing, GACSA, it occurred in 2014. So here 2015, the year has been changed. It should be 2014. So this statement gets wrong. Okay, first thing. Now, if we'll go further, it does not create any binding obligations on the countries. So this statement is correct. Now, third option will be saying India was instrumental in creation of GACSA. If we will see the news properly, then India was a signatory, but it had played no instrumental role in play creation of the GACSA. So this statement is wrong. So the correct option here is 2 only. But if we will see further in 2021 question, so here it is asking in the context of India's preparation for climate smart agriculture, consider the following statements. So statement 1 is the climate smart village approach in India is a part of project led by climate change, agriculture and food security, CCAFS. Okay. So this thing CCAFS, it is an international research program. So first statement is this. Second statement is the project of CCAFS is carried out under the Consultative Group on International Agriculture Research, CGIAR. Okay. And about CGIAR, it is headquartered in France. So it is headquartered in France. This is second statement. Now third statement is the International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics or ICRISAT in India is one of the CGIARs. One of the CGIAR's research center. So these two questions are basically based on climate smart agriculture. Okay, these are the two different aspects of climate smart agriculture that UPSC has taken. Now under this question, here we can see that if we'll go through the news or current affairs properly, then the statement 1 is correct. The climate smart village approach in India is a part of project led by climate change, agriculture and food security, CCAFS. Basically, the first pilot program, it was run by CCAFS and it was run in the Africa region. So after that, second point we will come. The project of CCAFS is carried out under the consultative group of on agriculture, international agriculture research headquartered in France. So this statement is also correct because this group, it came under this research IC CGIAR and it is headquartered in France. So this statement is also correct. Now, third it is asking the International Crops Research Institute for the semi-arid tropics in India is one of the CGIAR's research center. So this statement is also correct. So if I will try to link these two questions, then they are basically coming from climate smart agriculture. But what the current situation of climate smart agriculture is, what are its latest research, what are the different organizations that are playing role for the development of climate smart agriculture for the poor or developing nations. So these are the current aspects. What are the related institutions? What are the hierarchy of the institutions? So this is asked here. So basically here 1, 2, 3, all the options are correct. Okay, this was climate smart agriculture.